the latest on these hostages, 2 elderly women, they were taken alongside their husbands, but their husbands were not released either.
Right. I mean, I think what you're seeing here is we had 2 hostages released on Friday, 2 Americans, a mother and a daughter. So there is a deliberate strategy by Hamas in choosing who they are going to release. I mean, obviously civilians, there's no indication that they would be willing to release any Israeli soldiers. But I think what you're seeing here is a desire by Hamas in part to keep some of these, maybe, I don't know if you call them positive, but at least somewhat hopeful talks on the move. Knowing that Israel is under a lot of pressure from the families of a lot of these hostages not to proceed with a ground invasion while these continue. So if you can show, okay, these conversations are having some success in prying loose some of these hostages, maybe that would cause Israel to continue to hold off. And that certainly seems to be what we're seeing right now.
Interesting conversation over the weekend about supporting Israel. It was not Joe Biden who, of course, addressed the nation from the Oval Office over the weekend, but Mitch McConnell, who was out on Sunday morning shows. He did 2 of them to try to make the case here for a multi-billion-dollar supplemental budget request. McConnell weighed in on that request on Fox News. Listen.
Neither side has done a very good job of dealing with the deficit. However, you have to respond to conditions that actually exist, that are a threat to the United States. Well, this is an emergency. It's an emergency that we step up and deal with this axis of evil: China, Russia, Iran.
Now, he took a few shots at Joe Biden, but he was essentially singing from the same sheet music here when it comes to this supplemental budget request that could run into some real trouble with Republicans in the House. What did you make of Mitch McConnell's lap yesterday?
Well, I mean, I think you see, the old adage that foreign policy stops at the water's edge.
Yeah.
Domestic politics, once you go abroad, you have unanimity on bipartisan situation like Israel. And this is obviously, I mean, there is no foreign policy issue like Israel that unites the right and the left. I mean, there are some progressives, obviously, who are pressing Joe Biden to push for a ceasefire, but really there is strong bipartisan support for backing of Israel. But, that runs right into the speaker fight. You cannot approve that $100+ billion of funding for Ukraine, Israel, and a host of other issues without that. So, McConnell saying, listen, this is a priority for us. You guys got to get your act together and get this through.
Sure.
When you talk about those individuals on the left, President Biden was asked today, should you be pushing for a ceasefire? And his response was, listen, first show me the hostages and then let's talk. But as you said, this is a lot of concern for the White House because they are being pushed by these progressives. And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre emphasized the importance of aid to Palestinians, speaking to reporters earlier today. Take a listen.
Humanitarian assistance remains a critical and urgent need for Palestinians in Gaza. We know, and we understand this, that much more is needed, and this will remain a priority for us in the days and weeks ahead.
So is this how the White House is going to really walk this line, constantly push for the humanitarian and safety of Palestinians in Gaza, even though the progressives want so much more?
Right. I mean, what you're seeing is the administration modulating its tone a little bit. They came out right after October 7th, right after the Hamas attack, basically saying, we stand with Israel. Israel has the right to defend themselves. They're now saying that, but it's also, in addition to that, we need to be thinking about the humanitarian issue. And there's an interesting overlap there with the hostages situation, too, because initially we had indications that Israel, the government, was just saying the hostages they weren't saying this publicly, but that the hostages were not their top priority, that what they really wanted to do was go in fast, no matter the cost, even if the cost was the lives of the hostages. So what you're seeing is a real pressure from the administration and EU allies to sort of say, okay, wait, we support you on doing this ground invasion, but take a moment. Let's see if you can figure something out with the hostages and with all those civilians in Gaza.
We're going to talk later this hour with former Ambassador James Jeffrey about this. But we have to talk about what's happening on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. This is going to be an interesting evening here. We've got 9 candidates behind closed doors. We're basically starting this whole process for Speaker from scratch. Tom Emmer of the 9 seems to be the front runner, majority whip. I'm not sure anybody watching this program's heard of the rest. But at this point, take a look. Maybe Byron Donalds will resonate with a few folks, maybe Mike Johnson. But we're talking about a whole new slate of candidates here. Does anyone reach critical mass this week? Will we have a speaker by the end of the week?
The short answer is probably not. House Republicans are on the path to burn through another week. That puts us another week closer to that November 17th funding deadline, potential shutdown. I mean, you're going in with 9 candidates. None of them have a super strong base of support. Tom Emmer, as you mentioned, the guy who is the front runner, does not have Trump's backing. So that is a huge obstacle for him.
Is that only because he certified the results of the election?
That he's also very much seen as a moderate. He is not a friend to the more kind of conservative Freedom Caucus side. He is much more temperate in his demeanor as well as his politics. The question is when do the conversations start to get real? When do we start talking about a caretaker? When is it Patrick McHenry or someone else who comes in to steer the ship for a short period of time, get through some of these aid packages, spending packages that need to happen now, and then this fight potentially spills over into next year, potentially really complicating what the 2024 presidential primary looks like when you have Republicans basically at civil war.
Wow.
Right. A lot of these individuals are not just thinking about the floor vote they might take for speaker. They're actually thinking about how is this affecting my constituents back home, given what they see every day on the news regarding me and my colleagues. So what you're saying, though, is the closer we get to November 17th, that becomes a pressure point where they almost have to act, do or die?
They have to do something. The politics of having a shutdown while not being able to coalesce within your own party behind a speaker, Republicans get blamed for that shutdown 1,000%, and there's really no coming back from that for them. The question is, what kind of powers does this person have? If you have someone who doesn't really want to be speaker, you look at that list, a bunch of names, someone who's not even, a chairman of a committee or even in leadership now, they might be willing to accept terms of a speakership that are really weak just because, hey, why not do the job for a couple months? But that's really what remains to be seen of who can get people to coalesce behind them. As we've seen, it only takes 3 or 4 people to sink any candidacy, and this party's really divided.
Well, it says a lot that we keep coming back to Patrick McHenry here, and that may well be the solution, an empowered temporary speaker. I'm compelled by Libby Cantrell's note to clients today at PIMCO. The more the House becomes the price taker, not the price setter, the longer this goes on. The Senate's moving right now on a continuing resolution. They've found a way to do this to potentially jam the House. Yeah. The longer this goes on, then the House is going to have to accept what the Senate comes up with, right?
And frankly, that's always the case. In the Senate, you need 60 votes to move anything. They're sort of fighting over positioning and politics versus, even if Kevin McCarthy were still Speaker, they were still going to have to accept and pass a Senate bill.